Hello and welcome to the Hurling Show here on Off the Ball. We're live on Facebook, YouTube, and go to offtheball.com as well. A little play button in the corner if you want to listen to us. I'm Shane Stapleton. With me this week I have Will O'Callaghan of Off the Ball. How are you doing, Will?
Good afternoon, Shane. I know we're going to be talking to Tommy Doyle about Westmeath's success and not about Offaly getting relegated, right?
You certainly are. Tommy, how are you doing?
Great. In good form now and happy out.
Yeah, so first promotion up to the top tier in 32 years as well. 5 wins from 5, in a division that has Antrim and Kerry as well. It's been a great season for you.
Yeah, we're just delighted to get up there. I think we've failed a couple of times since I started playing inter-county hurling. I think it's our first thing we talk about when we go in December is to win the league, and we did get a win in 2016, but unfortunately the structure then we had to play the playoff and it didn't go our way. So just happy, relieved, and great to get up there.
Joe Quaid was manager of Kildare last year. He's after taking over with G this year. I'm sure he mentions Limerick's success, his native Limerick as well, in trying to fuel you for this year.
Yeah, and I think we take great inspiration from that as well, because we faced Limerick in a couple of qualifiers over the past few years, and we've done relatively well, probably just tailed off near the end when there was always a chance of beating them. But to see them go on and winning All-Ireland, and especially when you're playing against a lot of them guys in the college hurling the last few years, and see where they've got to and how they're still performing, so it's great.
Yeah, I think we have a clip here with Joe Quaid, who was speaking after the defeat of Kerry and taking you back to the top flight for the first time since 1987.
It's just phenomenal result for Westmeath hurling. I kind of compared it in the dressing room beforehand to something like Limerick achieved this year or last year. 45 years wait. I said it today's old day, 32-year wait. To create your own bit of a legacy within Westmeath hurling. There's a lot of good teams gone through since then, and look, the opportunity to get to play Division 1 hurling next year is phenomenal. I think we've Kerry again and Joe McDonough, and sure, who knows what's going to happen in that. There's nothing between the teams, but look, I've said it there during the week, even in the papers, and that the GA should be looking to promote more teams, not relegate teams. The more teams that get the opportunity to play at the top level, like we were a puck of a ball away today from not going up, and it could be Kerry up there, but like we need that. Westmeath as a hurling county needs that, and it's just fantastic.
Yeah, it is fantastic. Want to have a look at the group that you're going to be playing in next year and see, does this whet the appetite for 2020 for you? So in your group is going to be Limerick, Tipperary, the winners of Kilkenny, Cork, Waterford and Galway. So it'll be a handy little year for you.
Yeah, well, it's something to look forward to. We said we've probably played one or two of these over the past few years, but it's only been in a qualifier game. At least next year we're going to get 5 good rattles at it, see how it goes, and hopefully build on what's happened so far this year.
Because you've had some good performances against big teams in the last number of years. Pushed Galway very close, pushed Tipperary very close 2017. Limerick even, I think that wasn't a particularly heavy defeat in 2016 either, albeit they had down a man for 40 minutes. But you have shown that you have the quality to live in this company. Yeah,
I've always believed it, and it comes kind of from as well. We've faced a lot of these lads playing colleges and playing in these qualifier games. It seems to be at the very end of our season when and it's very difficult to build off it from there. So at least we're going to have a couple of games to test the water next year.
I suppose, Tommy, people might be overly familiar with the amount of you that were playing in Fitzgibbon over the last few years. I guess some of you have left college now at this stage, but there was 6 or 7 playing Fitzgibbon there a couple of years ago. I'd imagine that experience has helped you kick on quite a bit.
It has, and it might have stuttered our way through the league campaign, because with the league being so early, Fitzgibbon running late, and we've 2 or 3 games in the space of 10 days there, so it probably has. We found it hard to get going in the league some stages, but definitely the experience of playing Fitzgibbon hurling, it's massive for all players.
I'd imagine just getting over the line as well, because you lost 2 finals against Carlow last year, Division 2A and the Joe McDonough Cup final. You've come close, as you mentioned a few times, this lost a playoff in 2016 to Laois. To actually get over the line, even though it was a scrappy enough game in Ennis last weekend, must have meant a tremendous amount to you as a group.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I said. It's a bit of relief as well as such elation at the end, to finally get over the line, as you said. We felt we let a lot of ourselves down and our supporters down last year in the league final, and we wanted to right that. We've got one right, so hopefully we'll see what happens to Joe McDonough now.
I was reading what Johnny Greville said as well about this kind of in a golden generation of Westmeath players you have at the moment. A lot of the guys have kind of transitioned from that under-21 success against Kilkenny, which put the county into the sun for a night at least. those guys are now coming into the senior team as well. I mean, you must feel this is probably as strong a group as you've hurled with, is it?
It definitely has been. We've a big panel there on Sunday, and it's a credit to them lads, 26 lads that got jersey Sunday, but it was them guys pushing us on every day in training and not complaining, just doing it for the cause anyway. And you can see Tommy Doyle has come through since that under-21 game, and he came up trumps for Sunday, 6 huge points when we really needed it.
And even when he lost Niall O'Brien, other lads are now stepping forward. Niall Mitchell is kind of maturing at this stage, the Doyle twins. Have you missed Niall scoring a bit, or has there been lads just filling in for him?
That was obviously a bit of worry from the start of the year, knowing Niall was given so much over the last few years, especially you've seen him in Fitzgibbon again last year. And yes, of course he's a doubt, such a sharp shooter that you would miss him, but in fairness to the lads, they have stepped up in his place and got the rewards. Michael
Ryan brought you very close, but what's Joe Quaid and the other Limerick lads who've come in to help out with your own lads on the backroom team like Johnny, what have they actually brought to the party this year? Yeah, and I think Michael has set great foundations. He texts a number of lads before the game and after the game, and it will always be a Westmeath supporter, and I think he gave us the belief at the start that what we're capable of doing. Joe has come in, and that's all he's talked about too, is believe how good you are. He tells us every training, as good as any other team training in the county, and I think at the start you're a bit wary of what's he on about, and then but it's come true so far, and we'll have to see now when we're tested against the top.
We'll have to turn the spotlight on Will now for a second in his home county. Offaly 116, Carlow 214. That was the Division 1B relegation playoff. 11, I think it was 11 points up.
11 points up and a man up at the end of the first half.
And a collapse. Now, just before I ask you, we'll have a quick listen to Offaly manager Kevin Martin, who spoke after the game.
We always do it, when we go back tonight after a match, we open up the dressing room, we talk about it, where it went wrong or where it went right and how can we better things. We always open up the dressing room. So, we are a close-knit group. We are working at it, It's the kind of start of a journey for us. There's new players coming into the scene as well. And we just have to keep working hard at it. There's no other excuse. We just have to keep working hard at it. The sacrifices they make, the time to sacrifice, not being with their families. They're training 4 times a week, and then they're doing things on off nights themselves. And it'd be harsh now to down them and kick them when they're down. Those guys didn't want to go down today, even though it happened. We need people to get behind them now more than ever. Because I still think we can win the Joe McDonagh and we can be hurling up in Leinster next year. So we to the public, if you see the lads out in the streets, talk to them as if, any other time, they didn't go out there to lose, and at half time we were in a huge position. We shouldn't have let it go. We did. We'll have to see where it went wrong and we'll try and fix it.
Same old problems. We talked about them last week. Despite the fact that Offaly were 11 points up, but what was kind of described as a 6 or 7 point win in that first half in O'Connor Park. You're playing with an extra man, you score 3 points in the entire second half. Carlow get a couple of goals. They were always left in the game, and to their credit, they got the points they needed towards the end, clawed away at that lead throughout that second half, and then were able to hold on in the closing stages. Offaly again are so reliant on Shane Dooley and Joe Bergen for scores. Bergen again was leading the scoring at the weekend. Dooley I think contributed 3 points throughout the game as well. Without those two, Offaly don't have scores. And then you look across the local championship in Offaly, most of the top scorers who aren't involved in the panel are probably older players now at this stage as well. Brian Carroll with Coolderry, Colin Coughlin would lead the scoring, oftentimes with Kennedy as well, both retired from inter-county. Owen Cahill, who would get a lot of Burrs scores, plays and goals for the county team. So scores are drying up, and again, as we said last week, once Dooley and Bergen are gone, you really have to wonder where Offaly scores are going to come. And once again, the points dried up for Offaly. They got the goals in Netwatch Cullen Park the week before. They probably needed a goal or two more at the end of that first half, because I think after the 22nd minute, Offaly scoring actually went down quite a bit in that first half. Despite having the double digits lead coming up to half time, they didn't kick on from the 22nd through to the 35th minute, and maybe that was the losing of the game as much as the scores drying up in the second half.
So I don't think anyone would necessarily blame the players. I'm sure they're trying as hard as they can. They're just been let down by what's above them and around them.
Yeah, look, it's a mess. I was at the county board meeting on Tuesday night, just mainly out of interest as much as reporting to see what would be said, and
masochistic, I think.
Apparently there's some issues which the County Board Chairman Tommy Byrne says he's going to talk about with the management. He's already met with the backroom team. Kevin Martin knew he was meeting with the backroom team before meeting with him. He's meeting with the players tonight, and then set to meet with Kevin Martin at the weekend. He said there's issues and difficulties which have been identified by the County Board. He reckons they can be ironed out between now and the start of the Joe McDonagh, and he's still confident that Offaly could turn around and win the Joe McDonagh Cup. But to be honest, as someone just watching, I think Offaly can't be considered favourites for the Joe McDonagh at the moment. I think Westmeath, 2 pieces of silverware, on the move up. I know momentum's a dirty word in sport, but obviously a good feeling about the team. Laois, despite what happened on Saturday night against Limerick, that kind of duck shoot was expected anyway in a quarter-final. Laois have had a much more solid league campaign. I think you'd have to put Offaly behind both of them, and that's not what, even considering Carlow, who are definitely ahead of Offaly at this stage as well.
Brendan Hennessy, who works for KCLR, he was tweeting about how this game should be about the Carlow Rise, and the hashtag Carlow Rising is almost becoming a joke at this stage. It's been tweeted so often.
They can turn it into a positive though.
Of course, no, and it is a positive.
And they outnumbered Offaly's support by maybe 2-1.
Yeah.
And that's become one of the big talking points this weekend as well.
But with a first heading to a first Division 1 victory in 62 years away from home as well, like, that is absolutely huge, and they should be the story, because we've been here with Offaly so often. It feels like Groundhog Day talking about them.
Look, 13 years ago Carlow did Offaly at home in the Leinster Minor Championship, and alarm bells were going out at that time, because I think 2005 is probably the moment when Offaly went into decline. They could have won that 2004 Leinster final against Wexford. They had a couple of close scrapes after that. You know, they lost by 1 point to Wexford in a semi-final. They lost to Galway by a couple of points later in a Leinster semi-final. But that was that group at 2005 who were ageing at that point, and Carlow beat Offaly, and Offaly haven't done anything really at minor since then. So
I remember
that was a very big result in terms of this decline.
Like, Offaly have obviously been in decline for a number of years, like you're saying, but I remember watching them in an under-21 Leinster game against Dublin in, I'd say it was 2011, because I was there watching Conor Goff, who's a cooler player who's emigrated. But I was watching him, and I was thinking, after 15 or 20 minutes, physically, they just started getting absolutely battered by Dublin. 3 or 4 players went off injured because you could see they just couldn't take the hits. Tommy, like, when you're playing against the top end teams, physically, is it massively different to playing, like, for example, and no disrespect to them, but obviously the likes of Kerry, Antrim, Meath, Mayo and Wicklow, who are in the division you're just after winning, you know, it must be a world apart.
It is. There is points of the game, especially I think in the first 10 minutes of a game, you'll realise the pace of playing League 2A League hurling to the actual Leinster Championship or anything like that, and it just having the chance to develop or to get your bearings is the biggest thing in the first 10 minutes. So huge difference in the pace. I think as you mentioned, Offaly underage there, we've always had probably the upper hand over them underage the whole way up. So you can see it just coming a small bit into the senior. Look, they have a chance to rebuild now in Joe McDonagh. I think it will give them the opportunity to. We have them in the first round, and I'm sure it'll be a great battle when we meet them in Cusack again.
And it is a great tournament as well. I know it doesn't get the coverage, but it's like a lot of teams at a decently, you know, kind of consistent level with each other.
Yeah, there's been. I think most of our games last year there was not more than a puck of ball between the teams, and it made for great viewing as a spectator, and bringing hurling forward, especially for those McDonagh teams, and hopefully we've seen with Carlow into the league that they've really stepped up from it.
I think in fairness to Carlow as well, Shane, like, it was vitally important that they stayed up, you know, given that it would have been such a morale boost what happened against Galway, and to be so competitive against them earlier in the league. Then you got the blip really in the last result against Offaly in terms of losing that day.
When you did a quote tweet of some quotes from James Hickey of Carlow, and
wrote they're 10 points a better team. In fairness, they're still not 10 points a better team.
Well, if they did that to you with 14 men.
Look, anyone from Carlow who was giving me a slagging on Sunday night for retweeting that last week, I was more than happy to tweet back to them and say, look, I'm delighted that you guys are staying up. I think in fairness to Carlow, right, last year, the great year, won Division 2A, won the Joe McDonagh Cup. It's important that they actually get another year, and we saw the group that Tommy and the boys are going to be playing next year at Westmeath. Carlow have an interesting group next year, because they're going to have Dublin in their group, they're going to have Laois in their group, and it's far less daunting in theory than it is, say, what Westmeath are going to be going up to. Because I would worry about Carlow in the Leinster Championship this year, because I think they're going to be a bit behind the level of, say, Wexford, Dublin, Galway, Kilkenny.
And again, physically as well, as much as anything else. Just to run over some of the results from the weekend there. The only quarter-final that was played was Limerick 2-22, Laois 0-11. That was a bit of an annihilation, if we're honest. It was over good and early. Division 1A, Tipp hammered Cork 129-116. Wexford beat Kilkenny 119-112. 1B, Waterford 118, Galway 213. 1B playoff, as we mentioned already. Division 2A final, Westmeath 12, Kerry 10. And then the 2B final was Derry 8 points, Wicklow 1-9. So Wicklow getting promoted there as well. One of the big things that stood out from a lot of these games, and which was consistent through the games involving Galway, Kilkenny and Offaly, they all got a point from play in the second half against the wind as well. Is it pretty treacherous out there at the moment, Tommy?
I'm telling you, if you were down in Cusack Park in Ennis, you would have known all about it. I think the biggest roar of the game was when Kerry got a score in the second half against the Breeze, monster score, and it really lifted the roof off. So then we got 4 in the first half, 1 from play. It's huge against the wind.
Yeah, I don't think people fully appreciate that. Like hurling, as much as any game, it's just the wind can.
Well, some of the puckouts apparently in the Wexford Kilkenny game were struggling to get out past the 45 metre line.
It was the same in Waterford Galway.
Yeah.
Oh, it was ludicrous. So this weekend, the quarterfinals: Galway, Wexford, Waterford, Clare, Tipperary, Dublin, and the relegation playoff, which is essentially a game to rub off the suspensions for Conor Delaney and Seamus Harnedy, presumably Kilkenny against Cork. Now, I want to talk about Limerick first, even though they're not going to be playing this weekend, but just to reflect on the win over Laois and the manner of it. I took a couple of images for this game to show how important Gearóid Hegarty is. So this was for the Seamus Flanagan game early. Seamus Flanagan goal early in the game. So you can see this is Gearóid Hegarty, not far from his own 45. And he wins possession here, that usual thing where he chops the ball up off the ground into the hand, flicks it back to the defender. So if we flick on to the next image here, we can see that he's moved all the way from the left flank on the 45 into close to his own 65, or the attacking 65. And you can see off him, Seamus Flanagan is on the left flank ready to do an overlap run, and there are 2 other runners who are coming into the centre. Now Laois have a guy trying to hold the centre back spot, but all of a sudden with all those runners and with Gearóid Hegarty running cross field, that centre back is going to be held up. Now if we move on to the next image, you can see that the centre back has been taken out of the play. All the runners are now going into 30 yards of space. Look at the 2 inside forwards. They've both left the square and they've gone out to the flanks. They've vacated the square, which has created massive space for all these runners that I've just spoken about to come through. And just going on to the final shot, Flanagan gets the ball, turns inside and smashes it into the back of the net. Now, like John Kiley spoke about how it was the good, the bad and the ugly really. There was a lot of very good stuff up to maybe the 52nd minute. And then after that, they weren't so great. It was actually at that point that Gearóid Hegarty went off as well. Yeah. Like he's an exceptional player. And Tommy, you played against Limerick a couple of years ago. I think it was TJ Ryan's last season. Are Limerick now, how different and why are they different from the team that you would have played against?
I think if you took from some of Seamus Flanagan's quotes last year saying that it's just work rate, that they were going to work harder than everyone under their team, and they made that decision before, and it's the bit of unselfish play there. The guys are running into space that they're not even probably having a chance of scoring the way they're running, but they're creating space for the other guys, and it's just that bit of unselfishness playing for the team, and it's something that Joe Quaid and the guys who come in and said the same to us, just it's all about the team and it's about no individuals.
But you would coach that type of thing for players you create space for someone else to run into it. It's not by fluke that the 2 inside forwards were over at the far flank making sure there was space. No, and
it's probably it's very hard to coach because all forwards will know that they want to get in the scoreboard and they don't want to be running where there can be easily marked, but if they're dragging their man with them, creating something for someone else, there's goals on.
Because you would have thought we have a chance of turning over this Limerick team in 2016, wouldn't you?
Well, we would. Any team in Cusack Park in Mullingar, we'd always fancy our chance, and we got close probably the year before with the same team, Limerick. Unfortunately, I think we missed a penalty in the game when it was in the melt pot. But
was that the year with the phantom goal as well, the one that went wide and was given?
Yeah, and the phantom goal, I think that was a goal. I know we tried to argue on the pitch that it wasn't, but it definitely hit the net.
Okay, so there's an image I want to put up here as well. It's sort of highlights the difference between Kilkenny and the likes of Offaly as well, because we've obviously just talked about Offaly, but I saw that there was a tweet that went out from the Kilkenny GAA which said there's a development squad update for coaches and school coaches. So it reads as follows: Kilkenny GAA are hosting a running technique workshop focusing on speed and acceleration this coming Saturday in St Kieran's College Gym, 9:30 a.m. to 11 a.m. We're inviting development squad / club and school coaches to attend and observe, and then to assist our youth level players with these vital components of the modern game. And that's from Sean. Contact Sean Kelly, the performance games development officer. Like, that just shows the level that the likes of Kilkenny are going to. They're not just relying on, sure, look, the lads will go out and they'll puck ball all day and we'll let our hurling do the talking. They're turning players into athletes. I'm not sure that that's something that's happening across the board in GA.
I can defend Offaly ever so slightly on this one in terms of their actual coaching games has improved a bit over the last couple of years. I know Liam Hogan is going to be on Off the Ball tonight. He was the hurling review chairman before he stepped down in 2017. But Martin Cashin, who's come in as coaching and games officer in Offaly, gave a 34-minute presentation at the county board meeting on Tuesday, which I was sitting down at. He said there's been 318 coaches who've been upskilled over the last quarter, which is impressive enough. There's a lot of coaches in Offaly. It's maybe the standard of work that's going on that has to improve. They're now
upskilling to what degree? I presume.
Well, you're going from a low base. You're going from a lot of people who are on the kind of foundation course up to, say, level 1. But still, it's coaches who are available and coming into the net to be used. What's interesting is they've actually started to do, at last, at underage level, a skills performance, which will be passed from grade to grade. So the idea would be you'd look at the technical skills of a player at the new grades now of 13 and 15 and working their way up towards under 17 before they go into a minor squad. So it's going to be interesting to see if that's going to bear fruit. But I think what you have is Offaly starting at a much lower base than Kilkenny, and with Kilkenny, obviously the schools are the massive feeder system that they have there. Like, imagine the work that goes on in Kilkenny CBS and in St. Kieran's just provides a conveyor belt of players to come through every year. Offaly's school heritage has been nowhere near that, and that's probably an issue Westmeath maybe have had as well, Tommy, just maybe not having kind of a traditional hurling school. Rocherbridge doing a bit in Mullingar, but
yeah, we kind of have, we used to have the amalgamation as Westmeath schools, and I think we actually beat one of the big Kilkenny schools when I was there, and it was a massive thing for the county that time, and it just kept things driving on again. So and as you can see with Kilkenny there, it's just the game is constantly changing. It's someone else just trying to get an advantage on the other. Things like that, some work, some don't, but it's just thinking outside the box.
Yeah, like, just to talk about the importance of running technique as well, if you look at how often Kilkenny players turn and go straight at their man, even the Tipp Kilkenny game a couple of weeks ago, God knows how many frees Kilkenny won for just turning and running straight at their man.
They're brilliant at breaking tackles as well.
Yeah, and I don't think that's something that Tipperary, for example, focus on. Maybe Tipp don't have the pace. Maybe that's why Tipp don't have the pace, because they're not focusing on running techniques. And just to give an example, and this is club level, of course, and I would never try and compare it with inter-county level, but obviously it's, you know, people and it's trying to get faster. But I would have worked in the past with Cleona O'Connor, who was the former Dublin ladies goalkeeper. She had a Laker Gale. So she's a coach herself. She's with the Dublin Hurlers at the moment. And she was doing stuff on running technique with me. So what she did was she got me to run, let's say 30 yards or whatever it was at the time, and she filmed it on her phone. And then she gave me advice about how to run in terms of like getting the knees up and, you know, stomping the ground with the right part of your foot and all this kind of stuff. And then she played the two videos side by side, and you could see a world of a difference. And after like a few months of working with her, you could actually feel yourself running a lot more smoothly. So I think the importance of that, and you do feel like you're more on the top of the ground.
You're running more efficiently than when you're
running. Yeah. And like just you're getting more purchase per yard because, you know, you're getting the knees up a little bit more. I'm not sure if that's something you would have done, Tommy, or is it something you would have even talked about?
Well, I think I don't like seeing myself running because usually I'm chasing lads, but yeah, it's you see the amount of guys with hip injuries now and stuff like that. It's making sure the body is right and working as efficiently as possible.
Over the phone now we have Dan Shanahan. Dan, how are you doing?
Hi Shane, how are you, boy?
Not too bad. You were a man who had a savage turn of pace back in the day. How important is speed at inter-county level these days?
Shane, it's gone another level, to be honest with you. Just listening to there about the Tipperary lads, and some teams aren't maybe playing with speed because they're afraid to play with it. But you said it there, Shane. I remember when Jerry Fitzpatrick took us over there 0-4 and went down to the track in the RSC, doing the running track there behind the old soccer goals there, and teaching us how to lift your knees, as you were explaining there, and your hands and coordination back then. And it's gone up another 2 or 3 levels now. Like, you know, it's important to be able to run in sport now, Shane, especially hurling the way they're playing at the moment, like with sweepers or with running with the ball, and it's non-constant running, like, you know.
Yeah, and is that something you obviously would have worked with the Waterford players over the last number of years on that, would you?
We would have a few nights, yeah. On one night in particular, we just give one of the lads a few crisps in either hand. Yeah. You know what I mean? Just sprint a 50-60 yard sprint.
Yeah.
And he did, and he came back and they're all crunched. You know, so it's just natural. A natural sprinter would just sprint, and he wouldn't feel himself. Like, they shouldn't be, like, you know what I'm saying? The Chris should be normal when they come back, when they start the same when they finish, like, you know. So it's just that pressure we sort of put himself under. that the sprint with the Chris broke, like, you know, that he's squeezing his fist to go harder. It should be just go natural, and you see Chris should be normal. Like, you know, just something small little things, Shane. Look, we had I can't think of her name now. She's the hurdler in Blow, so well learn how to sprint. Kelly Proper.
Okay.
And she was in with us too a few times, like, you know, and stuff we learn off these people, different athletes. It's unbelievable, Shane, like, you know, and that's the way the game has gone. Like, everything I see, there's performance coaches gone into certain teams now as well. Like, you know, that's the way the game has gone.
I believe Tommy went chasing your chasing your autograph after one game. Tommy, did you back in the day?
I think it was back in 2006. The qualifiers were structured with a kind of round robin. Dan and a few of the Déise lads were playing at Cusack Park that day, and I think of a hurling ball home with a few signatures on it. Now I had to chase a few lads around the pitch for them now.
You can charge him for that, Dan.
Yeah, no problem, Tommy. But I think we played Westmeath above in Cusack Park, didn't we? I think.
Yeah, it was.
I think I got 2 goals.
I wasn't playing that day.
We had to drag that out of you, Dan.
I have no problem signing the ball. I go to Westmeath to sign it, even, lads.
Dan, just before we get on to Waterford's performance against Galway and turning it around from 10 points, how important is it that you have the home advantage at Walsh Park this year, because you didn't have it last year and it felt like it was costly?
Yeah, Shane, to be brutally honest, you saw last Sunday what it means, the result last Sunday, and you know, it's unbelievable to have home advantage. Whatever circumstances were with us last year, you know, our two away games were in Limerick, and you know, it was tough on us to get the lads motivated with our injury situation and stuff like that. But should we have did a Kildare on it? Maybe we should have, like, you know, and bit the bullet and put in your 5,000 or 6,000 in Walsh Park, which will probably hold 11,000 this year, and nothing has been done to it. So maybe we should have dug our heels in as a management last year and got our home games. But it was kind of sorted out behind our backs, to be honest with you, like, you know. But look, it's massive for the lads here. You see what home advantage is. Wait till you see the weekend. The majority of home teams will win, like, you know, and that's like Galway will fancy their chances against Wexford, and Waterford will fancy their chances against Clare, and obviously you've tipped in at home to Dublin, so home advantage is massive, to be honest with you, Shane. Because,
you know, of course, you got to the teams to the All-Ireland final in 2017. Last year, both not having the home advantage, having so many players injured, there was a suspension as well for Kevin Moore, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
It probably feels like you didn't get that final crack at winning the All-Ireland because
100%,
things conspired against you.
110%, Shane. That we didn't, with the circumstances, with the cards we were dealt with last year, with the injuries in the Clare game and Innes, with Kevin getting sent off, with the umpire and his decision against Tipperary above.
That was in now, Dan. Come on, that was in.
You know, even the one, there was not even the goal. There was a point even up for grabs there, and they gave it, like, you know. And you know, them things. Look, I'm not pointing the finger at any for them, to be honest with you, Shane. And you take your beating, but it's hard to take your beating when that happens to you above in Limerick against one of the best teams in the country, knowing that you had to win the game and you were cruising 10 points up. Now, having said that, we were 11 points up, we probably shouldn't have lost the game.
Yeah.
But the goal that was allowed that day was, like I've read, and you saw the performance against Cork. I think we would have beaten Cork if we had to beat them. To be brutally honest with you, Shane, if we had to get a result, we would have beaten Cork in Thurles.
And how?
Sorry.
I was just going to say, how impressed were you with the win against Galway? Because if you jump back 2 years ago, you were 10 or 11 points up against Galway. They turned it around, and they spoke about how important it was in sort of them springboarding towards the All-Ireland. Now Waterford have done the exact opposite. Can this be a springboard towards a good summer?
I definitely think so, Shane. I definitely think so. I met you above in Dublin there above at the Dublin game, and you know, you wouldn't see this performance coming if you're honest. With all the injuries Waterford still have, Shane. They had 21. I think fit players for last weekend. They're missing key individuals. You know, like Burke, Morris. You know, there was a few.
The Fives brothers weren't playing.
You know what I mean? They're missing key individuals, but there's other lads stepping up to the mark. So they are, Shane, and it's great that Pádraig and his management team have used a lot of the players in the league. I fancy them Sunday to get a result against Clare. To be honest with you, home advantage. Hopefully, to be a drier, better day with a bigger crowd. The weather last week was awful, Shane, for a hurling game, and you saw the result. Galway won the first half and Waterford in the second half with momentum. It was a game of two halves in most of the games last week, Shane, that whoever got the scores in the first half, like, you know, the second half teams, most of them pegged them back and won the games, like, you know. And look, the weather this time of the year, Shane, you're never going to have good days, you know, so you're going to have the different days. Like in Salt Hill could be different now Sunday with the wind up there and stuff like that, like our Saturday. But again, Waterford are improving. They have They got to the quarter final. They could easily get to the semi final, and they play Wexford or Galway. They could easily get to the final, like, you know.
So just in terms of how the team is set up now versus when you were involved, so you know, people would have lazily said just sweeper only, but the way I saw it is, you know, maybe you had extra guys back, but you had everyone from midfield on, like Jamie Byrne and Kevin Moran when they were midfield, they used to get massive scores, and then maybe Shane Bennett and Jake Dillon or Morris inside were maybe outnumbered a little bit, so it was probably tough for them to get scores. When we watched Waterford and Dublin a few weeks ago, there was 3 men inside the pace of the Bennetts and Tommy Ryan, who's a speed merchant altogether. Everyone else was kind of, the half-forward line was out around midfield and trying to protect the defence. Do you think there's much of a difference from now between the way you set it up?
I don't think there's much, Shane. I think Pádraig and his lads are going with 3 inside, 100%. But they're also leaving space below for our own full back line.
Yeah.
If you looked at it against Dublin, like, you know, they got 1 or 2 goals. It could have been a lot more there, like, you know, and that's the worry. Last Sunday's game was the same way, like, you know, there was a bit of space in there in the full back line, like, you know, so it's something I heard. I listened to the commentary there, listened to Monday night there, the previews of the match, and they were saying, like, you know, it's great to have him attacking, but it's great to have the extra defender back there for safety as well, like, you know, so it's nothing that's changed, to be honest with you. I don't think it has. Pádraig maybe has Shane Bennett back, who we didn't have last year, and I can assure you, Shane, he's one of the top class best hurlers in the country on his day, like, you know, and when we're missing forwards like we were last year with Shaney, so our Stephen is in full forward and getting a great run there and taking his opportunity very well. Like, you know, they're dangerous hurlers together with Tommy Ryan, like, you know, and they love the space, Shane, they love the fast ball. You saw it against Dublin, Shane, they didn't get great ball above against Dublin in the league game, like, you know, and compared to last Sunday where they did get good ball, like, you know, so it's really hard to call, Shane, but I don't think there's much difference, to be honest with you. Our lads are attacking from the back, so they're leaving spaces in between their half back line and full back line, and I would just hope someday that they won't get caught with that space, because when summertime hurling comes, Shane, and the fast ground and the hard ball comes, it'll be hard to defend that space, I guarantee you that. When
Austin Gleeson came on in the second half, he seemed to be operating in the half forward line, but then if you look at the goal that Shane Bennett got at the very end to win it, he was actually standing more or less, he was the last outfield player back, and he played a lovely ball into, I think it was Peter Hogan maybe, who flicked it on for Bennett as well. Is his position going to be moving around the field to just, you know, is he going to have a free role, do you reckon, this year?
I don't know, Shane, to be honest with you. Personally, if you're asking my own point of view, I'd put Austin in the forwards, Shane, that's just my own opinion. I thought Danny Sutcliffe gave Austin a run around above in Parnell Park, to be honest with you, or there yourself, Shane. And
yeah, he did.
He like, you know, when you're missing Tyg Buck, who I rate highly, very highly as centre back, like, we can afford to have Austin in the forwards. Like, don't get me wrong, Austin will play in the backs, centre back for a long time in the game. But at the moment, I think we need a bit of aerial power in the half forward line, Shane, and big men, and I think he can bring that to the Waterford setup. And if they can get him, Morris, Brick, 1 or 2 more Pádraig, a few more bigger fellas into the half forward line with their nippier fellas, Shane, this team won't be a bad team. Like, you know, I just think Austin is more suited. He'll take watching in the forwards, he can sit deep, he can go to midfield, he can attack. You know, we've plenty cover in the backs. So we have Shane if we get our lads fit, and I'd just rather see Austin up in the forwards, and he's more of a threat and he can relax more up there.
For Clare, do you think it's more important to use this game as a dry run for the Munster clash, which is also going to be at Walsh Park, more so than the result itself?
It's a tricky one, Shane, to be honest. Clare don't make many changes, Shane, to their teams. If you look at the league games they've played, they haven't made many changes, and I think they're going to come down very strongly next Saturday. So they will came to Fairfield there about 2 months ago and give Waterford a lesson in the first half, an absolute lesson. In the second half was a different story when Waterford brought on Kevin Moran. To be honest, he settled the game down. He brought him on. He brought a bit of experience to the half back line, and it settled Waterford down in Fairfield. And he took the game to Clare, and he only beat Waterford by a point or two in the end. Like, you know, so it's going to be an interesting Saturday with the weather conditions, and whether Clare will Waterford put a man-to-man on Tony Kelly. If he, like, you know, this they think. You saw there Cox didn't do it, and he got 6 or 7 points from centre forward. Like, you know, will Waterford put Philip Manny on him, who has a good record against them, or does he Philip hold his position at centre back, and someone else pick him up when he goes on and what goes loose? So it's interesting for the Waterford management. Yeah, but I know they're learning cover because the Clare forwards are serious forwards, Shane, and they'll be hoping next Sunday it's another step in the right direction for Waterford. So it is another competitive game, and if they can get a result and a big crowd behind them, blowing Walsh Park, home venue. You know, there's no place I can guarantee, Shane, that Clare won't like going down to Waterford this Saturday. I won't like coming in the first round of the championship if they don't get something out of here this weekend. Like, you know what I'm saying? Even the performance and lose, they'd be happy, I'd say, at Clare. But if you get a performance and win, the pressure's on him the next day again in the championship to come down and perform like that again. So it's a no-win situation for Clare and a great one for Waterford.
Tommy, I'm just going to throw this one at you. In recent games, I've seen David McInerney be the spare man at the back for Clare as well. You know, if the other team is drawing out their forward line. Jack Brown has been there once or twice this year. Colm Galvin in the All-Ireland semi-final against Galway last year, when things were going terribly for Clare, looked like they were going to be blown away. He was the guy put on the D, and he did unbelievable damage throughout the game. Can Clare afford to have him so deep? Because ideally maybe they'd want him further up the field, popping points and carrying the ball, and therefore allowing Tony Kelly to play further up the field as well.
I think it's kind of the same question you're asking, Dan. It's wherever it's going to help the team best. Ozzie Leeson, I know I'd much prefer to see him playing the forwards, but if it was against him, I'd like to see him down the other end of the field. So it's wherever you probably won't dominate for 70 minutes of a game, but it's where he can cause the most damage. In Galvin's case.
Just one question then, Dan, as regards Cork. Very, very poor against Tipperary, probably non-performances against Kilkenny as well, and somehow beat Clare when Clare gave away 15 scoreable frees as well.
Yeah.
Are they lacking leaders at the moment? What's happening with Cork? They're having a pretty poor year.
Yeah, Shane, I just think, Shane, that John Moyler and his backroom team have tried. They brought in a few fellas that were there before, Stephen McDonald and Aidan Welch, and they have kicked on a bit, Shane, but they haven't got the results. I just have a sneaky feeling this year, Shane, that Cork could be a serious team. I don't know how would they go in Munster. I think they'll come out of Munster. But I think if Cork can get, like Alan Cadigan is massive for them now again this year. I know he went off injured again last weekend, but I think he's massive for Cork this year. I was hoping he'd come on, and he usually gets 1-3 a game for Cork in most games when he's fully fit, but the worry for that he went off last year. I wouldn't worry one bit about Cork, Shane, so I wouldn't. They're try a few things. I was listening to what John Moyler was saying last week. They've over 30 players in the league played. They've tried different things. They brought back Aidan Welch, and the only thing John Moyler did say that Aidan Welch was the only forward that did stand up to the plate, like, you know. So, but then he come summertime, Shane, when you've Lehane and all them lads fit, and the Catalans. Do you know what I mean? Mark Coleman was come back at Darrell Fitzgibbon. They must all get back into the swing of things yet, Shane, from the UCC exploits, Fitzgibbon exploits. So I wouldn't fear one bit for Cork. So I wouldn't. Steve McDonald is a great cornerback, so he'll bring Tigers, as I said, Damien Catley, Owen Cadigan. I wouldn't worry about Cork Nash and goal, Bill Cooper midfield, Daniel Carney. I wouldn't worry one bit about Cork, because when it comes to championship, they know what they have to do, Shane, to win their games. And like, as any team in Munster, Shane, you know yourself. Up to last week, Shane, they were saying Tipperary were in trouble. Now they can go on and win the league. You know what I'm saying? They're Dublin next. I think they'll beat Dublin in Thurles. Do you know what I mean? It could be an interesting game then after that. Like, you know, so it's just hard to read at the moment with different teams trying different things. Like, you know, it's like, let's not forget, it's the league, and people want to get to the final and win it. When you get to the final, you want to win it, but they won't be disappointed if you get to the semi or quarter final and perform well and be out of it as well, Shane.
And just one thing though about the Cork defence, though, it's probably the one place where they'd like to tighten up this year, and people always talk about full-back and centre-back, but their defence, they've averaged conceding 24.2 points per game, whereas Limerick and Tipperary, and surprisingly Tipperary, have the best defences, averaging 18.6 points a game. So surely that's a place that Cork really need to address.
It does, of course, Shane, and if you looked at the Cork the games, I think they've made a lot of change in their back, Shane, with the last number of weeks. They had Owen Cadigan full-back, now they had Callahan back in full-back. There's Steve McDonald, as I said, they don't know who was missing last week. They had the big fella there from Newton, or from Kingston, they're back there as well. He's settling in well centre back there, like, you know, O'Mahony. He's settling in there as well. So it's supposed to be a bit worrying, all right, when you're conceding that much. But again, like, you know, but it's supposed to be when your forwards have to walk to, Shane, to help the backs. Like, you know, it's a small bit of worry. But I don't think John Moyler will worry, Shane. They've won the last 2 or 3 Munster titles, so they have, like, they're trying to find a panel this year. If you remember last year against Limerick in the semi-final, they couldn't. They just behind the same fellas they'd taken off. Again, they ran out of legs, so they did. And I say John Moyle and his backroom team. Like, let's not forget that Dougie Howlett in there as a performance coach. I don't know what he's doing. I'd love to know. Go up and see him train him on it to see what these lads do, to be honest with you, and see could you learn anything, because you know what he brings to it. Like, you know, he'll definitely bring some professionalism to it. But again, I wouldn't worry about Cork if you can get the Lehane fit, the Horgan shoot, and you know what I mean. You're training Aidan Welch in there, who's a very underrated hurler, Shane, because of his height and he's left over right. He's awkward. He's a big man and he can run on hard ground as well. Like, you know, so I just think Cork are trying to find a panel, Shane, that they didn't have last year. So and the way they can use their 6 subs, that'll make a difference to get them into the final this year.
Yeah, and just one final question then, Dan, before we let you go. Like you mentioned Dougie Howlett coming in there as a performance coach, and you mentioned that you had Kelly Proper in doing some running technique with your players, and that's something that's tangible. You can see, okay, the players are running better, maybe you measure their speed, they're running faster, they're not breaking the crisps in their hand, that kind of stuff. Like with someone like Dougie Howlett, and you know, Cork are obviously looking for that extra 1% here or there. Yeah. Getting in someone like Dougie Howlett, and people talk about, oh, you know, he's going to be great for setting standards and professionalism and all this kind of stuff. But I wonder how measurable is that sort of stuff. At the end of the year, are you going to be able to say, Dougie Howlett, well, he made the difference or didn't, when you can't really necessarily measure what he's going to be given?
Yes, it's a great point, Shane. You know, back in my day, we had Kelly Proper, and, you know, and like fella said to me, Shane, you can run all right, but you must be able to run with the ball and put the ball over the bar, Shane.
Yeah.
You know, to bring in these people to teach you these things are great, and a different voice and different professionalism from a different sport is great. And to get a bit of advice about other lads that have done it and won Heineken Cups and have represented New Zealand for a number of times. Like, you know, it's unbelievable to have a man around in Galway. What he'll bring, like, you know, and I think Déise Farrell has gone in with Dublin. It would have been right in saying that. As well.
Yep.
So, like, you know, different managers are trying to get the extra bit out of their players, like, you know, but it's going to the simple things, Shane, who wants it more, like, you know, and these lads will bring you in and they'll teach you what to do and tell you what to do, but it's up to the individual themselves then to go away and listen and do it themselves, like, you know, and do the work off the field as well as on the field to get the results. Simple as that.
That's brilliant stuff, Dan. Thanks very much, and enjoy the Waterford Clare game at the weekend.
Thanks, Shane, very much. Thank you, buddy.
All the best. Yeah, so do you believe in that? Have you had guys from other sports come in and give you talks or anything like that?
Well, you try to grasp something from anyone that comes into the dressing room, whoever it may be, whatever they've done in the past, and it's that small. If it clicks with one or two lads, it's made a positive remark in the squad. As you said, it probably can't be measured, but it's all small margins when it comes down to it, especially as Dan says, in that Munster Championship.
I wonder though, because like these are high performing players as it is, standards are already going to be really high, and I'm not saying that the likes of a Dougie Howlett won't add something. I just try to question why, because surely if you're bringing someone into the room, you want to do something that, you know, in sort of rowing terms, something that'll make the boat go faster, and you just don't know if it will or won't, so why?
I think sometimes it depends how involved they are. Like Dougie Howlett appears to be very involved with the Cork hurling team at the moment. What tends to be the thing that happens, I think what players can be somewhat cynical about, is some ex-player from a different sport comes in on one given night and picks up a paycheck for, you know, a pep talk essentially coming up to championship or something like that. I mean, I think you're going to be far more cynical about that rather than Dougie Howlett, who I'd imagine is in and around the Cork panel a bit, getting things ready there. I wouldn't be as down in Cork as you are, by the way, either. I think I kind of share where Dan is on this one. I was talking to John Myler before Christmas, and he was quite insistent that with the structure of the league this year as well, that kind of threat of relegation was taken away. It was a chance to experiment, and I kind of wonder if that game against Tipperary last weekend, if say that had been a case of you lose, you're relegated, you win, you're a quarter final, I wonder if there would have been a little bit more on the line motivationally going into that game. I
don't know if I'm necessarily down on him as such, but I don't think you can ignore the defensive statistics there. And
they're conceding a lot, and they did last year as well.
But if you look at the games that they've played this year, the two games that they've won, which were against Clare and also against Limerick, the teams give away a huge amount of fouls. Now, you could say, fair enough, that's good play from Cork, or it's poor play from the other teams, but they need to be scoring a lot of frees, which is 15 and 10.
It just goes to show how important Horgan is with a dead ball as well, if Cork are going to be successful.
He's a class act. We're just going to move on to Tipperary as well. And I mentioned that they're really good defensive stats this year. They have the best defence in terms of conceding goals as well, which is 4. That's probably something that's gone under the radar with Tipperary.
And it probably was a question of them in 2016 or 17 when they were kind of struggling at the back a small bit, and they've obviously looked at it, tidied it up, and with any team, once they see their own, if they can see their own weaknesses, they have to tidy it up. So
and they've the best defence along with Limerick after 5 games as well. But will Speed kill Tipperary this year? Because I just don't know if they're going to create enough goal scoring chances going up through the middle in the height of the summer based on the last couple of years. We know they've got all the hurlers in the world, but to punish teams you need to be able to run right up the middle.
The Munster Championship is going to be a very interesting litmus test for them, because they're going to come up against a lot of teams that maybe mightn't suit them stylistically. I know they've got that win against Limerick.
Have pace.
Yeah, there's going to be teams with pace. I mean, there's going to be teams who are going to run at them. I thought it was interesting, we had our debate a few weeks ago. It seems at this stage, listening to Sheedy at the weekend, that Ford might be hitting quite a few of the frees for the rest of this year now.
Well, I think we've got a video, and I probably caught our producer Shane off guard a small bit, but last year I was down watching Bursley, my hometown, play against Silvermines, which was Jason Ford's club in the North Tipperary Championship, and there's Ford standing over a free, and he just does hit them gloriously, as you can see right here. Straight over, no mess, and trots away. He scored 113 against Cork, and it was little doubt that he was going to get the goat of the week. And of course, we have an image coming up here as well, as we do every week, of our goat of the week.
Mr. Shane put under pressure at the last minute.
Yeah, so there he is, the goat of the week.
A mildly disturbing goat of the week.
That took, how long would you say that took to do?
4 seconds in paint.
No more than 4 seconds. It was, but like, must be said about Tipperary, even though they've been up and down the last number of years through Michael Ryan's reign, and even there was an iffy year or two with Eamon O'Shea as well. But they're the only team to finish in the top 4 in each season when it's been Division 1A only. So even like Kilkenny last year, was it the year before, we're in the relegation playoff as well.
And like, you'd fully expect them to beat Dublin and reach a semi-final this weekend. As well as Dublin have hurled in 1B, I think Tipperary will have too much. And then, you know, all this talk of Tipperary a few weeks ago and worries start to go to one side, don't they?
Well, yeah.
You're obviously introspective about your own county all the time, but
I think that the talent is there for Tipperary to go really far this year. I'm not 100% sure if an All-Ireland is realistic this year, but they could be in the top 1 or 2, get to a Munster final, or they could easily go out as well. Like, I think we can say that Carlow aren't going to get through in the top 3 of the Leinster Championship, but you have a bit more of an idea what's happening in Leinster than you do in Munster. Tommy, would you have any idea who's going to come through Munster?
I honestly don't know, and I wouldn't write Carlow off. I think like they've got the players. It's just. And what Dan was saying, if you can keep your players fit, you never know what's going to happen during the summer. And I think as we said about Cork there, Cork's pace up front might be a big factor as well when it comes down to Munster Championship in the middle of the summer.
We're going to have to say goodbye to Will. He's after running out the door there. He has to do a quick little news round. We'll just move on to Galway are playing against Wexford this weekend as well. I saw a very interesting quote from David Fitzgerald. He says, Micheál Donoghue always seems to get up for me. I don't know what the story is. Every time he plays me, he's like a lunatic. Do you think that managers get up for other managers a bit more, or for other teams? Do they particularly target performances against other teams?
I think definitely on the sideline there might be a few mind games going on, and always some guys are probably a bit more calm and collected on the sideline, and then some have to kind of get in the other guy's head, and that's a small margin that if they think they can win the battle on the sideline, the players will do it on the pitch for them. So it's whatever's preference.
Have you been impressed by Galway this year? They've used 33 players, so obviously, and I think, no, they've used 33 different players have started according to Donoghue. It's a case that they do want to find an extra 1 or 2 players, but within that, how do you think they've done?
I'd be happy enough going in as Galway. They've played in the last two All-Ireland finals, and as you said again, the league had that kind of the no kind of relegation. They were always probably going to be safe in the division they were in, and they'll be happy enough. As I said, Cork, they're just looking for that extra 1 or 2 players, and they'll be happy enough going into Leinster.
And then Wexford last week. I think that's 2 home games in a row that the first score of the game has been Wexford conceding a goal. It happened against Tipperary. Callanan scored, and it happened, I think it was Blanchfield who scored the opening score of the game as well. Is that something that's purely coincidence?
It is a bit surprising for Wexford, because I think we played Wexford last year, and the way they lined up from the throw-in, they had a game plan from the throw-in. They brought a
set piece move type.
They had their whole full forward line brought out to midfield, and they left it 1-on-1 inside with myself, unfortunately, and I was thinking, what's happening here? So
who were you on?
I think it was David Dunn, one of the quickest lads in the team. So they obviously had a game plan. So it is a bit surprising when you say Wexford, because they've got these things down to a T usually, and maybe it's just a bit of luck to lose the first breaking ball in the throw-in, and it ends up the other way. So
we're going to go up to the tactics board in a minute, but just to tease that out a little bit more, when you say that they drew everyone else out, you're standing, I presume, on the 14, on the 21 more or less with David Dunn. Where's everyone else? Outside the 45?
It's about 5 or 6 seconds just before the referee throws in, or 10 seconds, whatever. There's a bit of movement, and then there's a bit of confusion in our own backs, because we're thinking who's picking up who, and all of a sudden the natural instinct is to follow your man, and then all of a sudden there's 1-on-1 inside. But thankfully for us, I think we got the break in the throw-in, so it didn't end up in our own net. But it is, and it goes back to all them small margins. You've seen the sideline from Waterford at the weekend, little trick plays like that, and it could cost you staying in the championship or not.
I actually asked referee David Hughes whether Waterford had a word with him beforehand.
I'd say they would have.
He actually said they didn't, but he just happened to catch them, catch the guy who took the sideline. Was it one of the Bennetts who actually took the sideline, if I remember correctly? Yeah. He said he saw him place it down properly and saw him flick it, so he said... I think
you have to give the credit to the referee for that.
Yeah.
Not many referees would have picked that up, and they would have probably bowed to the crowd giving out about it, and done the easy thing and threw the ball in or sent the sideline the other way. But I think the referees, they get a lot of stick. I think they have to be commended for that.
Because one of the Galway players started giving out to him then, and he explained the situation that he saw it, and the player said, yeah.
And I would have been definitely the same, just to put the doubt in the referee's head and to stick with the decision. It's very well done.
Can I ask you then about how Wexford tried to operate the puckouts the last day? So Kilkenny, as ever, drew players way out the field, and they offered up who they probably would have considered the weakest hurling option for, they don't want Kevin Foley taking the short puckouts off of Mark Fanning. So they said to the new guy, Darren Byrne, right, you can take all the short puckouts, you can try and run at us. So for a fullback, certainly someone more of a novice like Darren Byrne, who's fullback, and then it seems like Liam Ryan has been fashioned into another position. If you're Darren Byrne and you're getting the short puck out and you're turning and you're seeing everyone is marked and you're just going to be running into traffic, how difficult is that? Because he was turned over a few times.
It is very difficult, and even if you're taking a ball at full back, you'd rather the attacker probably be a bit close to you, so you have your steps to beat him. So it can be done, and the smaller you make the pitch look to a defender coming out with the ball, obviously the better chance of a turnover.
Okay, so we're gonna talk about the club final in a little bit of time. We're going to go up to the tactics board in the meantime, but first Joey Holden spoke to Owen Shane ahead of the AIB All-Ireland Club final this weekend. Ballyhale will be playing St Thomas's.
Yeah, I suppose it's back a good few decades ago now. They would have won a few club All-Ireland, so I suppose the pedigree within hurlers was there, but I suppose during the recession and stuff, the parish would have took a bit of a downturn. The motorway came through, and Ballyhale went kind of a bit of a quite little village, but so when that happened, the field became the centre, the hub of the parish, so all the young kids were down there most nights of the week, and we were down there most nights of the week training, and it gives immense pride to everyone around the parish to see the club doing well and to see young lads coming through and performing. That's what it's all about. So they seem to keep coming, you never know when it's going to stop, so we just keep doing and keep bringing on these young lads as best we can and keep the kind of whole thing going as best we can.
Was there an appreciable impact on your teammates in terms of playing numbers when the recession hit?
Not so much playing numbers, they would have always been around, and it kind of varies, I suppose when I was under 16 and minor, there would have been, I suppose, a small number around that time, but then a few years before that they would have had a very good team, they wouldn't have failed and that sort of thing. So it kind of ebbs and flows, I suppose, in villages and that like that. I was short numbers, but then there seems to be plenty of numbers, and one year we won a couple of under 21s there, so there was plenty of numbers there. So it kind of it's a bit up and down. So it's hard to kind of put a finger on that, but it seems to be a good few young lads there at the moment coming through, which is good.
I guess it helps when you're a successful club as well. People, and this isn't overstating things, people literally stay at home if there's the hope of a successful GAA club. We've seen it with Mulliniochta over the course of the winter. They said that people literally stayed in Ireland because they wanted to play football and they had chances of success. It's the same story really with Ballyhale. When you're playing for a club of your stature, there is hope there.
Absolutely, yeah, there's hope there, but I think when they come down, people are enjoying, and if there is that chance of success, they probably do drive on that bit more, so. But they enjoyed hurling, they enjoyed coming down to the field, they enjoyed learning, and this was, when I was there, I enjoyed looking up to the likes of Henry Shefflin and TJ Reid and these kind of hurlers that were there. Enjoyed looking forward to the challenge of marking them, and that's what I looked forward to, and I couldn't wait to get onto the field to do. So that also helps you drive on. So I kind of suppose success breeds success in a way. So hopefully we can continue to do that.
Yeah, your county man Tommy Welsh often says in our show that there are three pillars of society in Ireland: Fianna Fáil, the GAA and the Catholic Church, and the GAA is only the one that still goes strong. And he says in Tullerone it's the centrepiece. The pitch, as you've mentioned, is a centrepiece of that community. I guess that's the same for a lot of communities around Ireland at this point.
Absolutely, yeah, no, it's definitely around Kilkenny anyway. Every pitch is thriving with young lads going, and I think as young as under 6 now, they're going around and just running around and hitting the ball where they can and just having fun. And it's great to see when you go down the field, training the senior players. It's great to see all them young guys running around and basically not a care in the world, just running after a slitter and hitting it as far as they can and running after it again. So it's great to see, you know, it brings immense pride to everyone around the parish when they see all their young kids, and everyone has a connection to someone, you know, it's either their nephew or their first cousin, and they're coming home bragging about it, how well they played in a match, whether they scored a goal or not. So it's great to see, and it fills everyone with good pride and happiness, I suppose, which is what the GAA brings to a lot of people.
Yeah, club final, amazing occasion for all the players getting involved this weekend. That game is at 2 o'clock on Sunday at Croke Park. It's going to be a fantastic final, and the most obvious thing to look at is the fact that Henry Shefflin has won 10 All-Irelands as a player, and obviously a few as a club player as well, that he is possibly going to manage his club team to an All-Ireland as well. And on that team he's got Hurlers of the Year in Michael Fennelly and TJ Reid. So straight away with experience you'd be thinking it's Ballyhale.
Yeah, and why wouldn't you else? But there is two heavyweights. St Thomas were there a few years ago and won it. The two Coonies from Galway, and look, it's going to be a great battle. Look forward to watching it, and it could be the fairy tale for Henry Shefflin.
Yeah, Davy Burke, of course, midfielder as well. You played against St Thomas's this year in a challenge match with Westmeath.
We played Thomas at the start of the year in a challenge match, and it's just the same thing. Movement in the forwards is very good from them. The way they move the ball up the pitch, and as I said, Conor Cooney's always dangerous on the edge of the square.
Okay, so let's move on to actually just your prediction before we go any further. Who do you think will win the game?
It's a draw game. Draw game.
We'll be aware of that. I would just about plumb with Ballyhale myself.
I think the win over Ballygunner was huge. I think Ballygunner, after beating the Pearshake, which were top dogs for so long as well, and just beating the next team on, it was huge for them.
Yeah, I'd say like there'd be a huge focus put on stopping TJ Reid, there'd be a huge focus on stopping Colin Fennelly, and maybe someone like Adrian Mullen or Evan Cody again, just like they did against Ballygunner, might be the ones who will be able to separate the teams. Okay, we're up at the tactics board. You are a fullback at the top level. Explain to us, when you're playing fullback, you're up here, what are you up against as a general point? And we'll have it so that the Reds are the defenders. So first of all, that's probably not even how a team lines out anymore.
Yeah, that's one of the big things. It's not your traditional game anymore, and most teams, to create the space, will generally line up either the three full forwards narrow, either that way, creating space on both channels and room in front, or they'll end up with a link man and then to the D and leaving the space for both guys go inside. But they will always try keep a man in around the square, and he dropping balls or that.
What sort of movement are you going to deal with then? Are you going to have guys crisscrossing each other, trying to make you decide, will I stay with my man or will I pass him on to the other guy? Yeah,
and that's exactly it. And it's up to the backs how well they communicate to cut off these runs. If we're tight like that, we'll always try marking the outside and cut off any runs and get your body across, slow down the run wherever you can. And even the teams that are so well communicated will be able to, if a guy runs straight across, we'll switch over and it'll work like that. And it's just about communication and being sharp when you're playing.
And I presume you look at other teams as well and you see what teams try and isolate a fullback. So what team tries to leave you in there on your own? You've already mentioned
Wexford. I just mentioned Wexford because it's the one off by that I've just mentioned. But yeah, just from the throw-in, that's it, leaving the space, and if they can get a ball into the hand like that, it's one-on-one, and the forward will always fancy himself with a ball in hand. And it kind of happens with the weather, how it is, it kind of happened a bit Sunday, that when you're playing with the wind, the game gradually gets dragged down the field, and you'll always end up maybe one-on-one inside, and teams will probably play their fastest player in there, and it's just to keep an eye out, keep ready, reading the game and make sure you're getting to the ball first and all.
What are the do's and don'ts of playing fullback? And I'll give an example, and again this is club level, but in the All-Ireland Club final last year, I was marking David Breen, who was a former Limerick captain, out on the half-forward line for a while, and whatever way the play moved around, there was a bit of interchanging between the forwards, and then I was somehow stuck with David Breen here fullback, and all I saw in front of me was like 40 yards of space in all directions. And an Apirshig player had the ball and he was able to feed it in absolutely anywhere he wanted, to the side which was more advantage to David Breen. And I ended up, by mistake, I was running truck and trailer behind him, and I ended up connecting with his heels and tripping him for a free. But I just thought, if this is what a full-back is up against all the time, it's incredibly daunting.
It is, and you probably just get used to it being the last man, and it doesn't be so daunting, but you always want someone dropping back, and it will probably be the midfielders or half-forward line that will drop back and a line pushes back, but you'll be calling for help. I know one of the lads at the weekend, I think it was Cormac Boyle, was saying it to me after the game. He ended up 1-on-1 at the end, and he was shouting around looking for someone to help him. So it can happen in games. You try your best probably not to get caught in front, because as you see, the top forwards will hang in behind and probably wait for the high ball and either run side to side. So it's talking to your goalkeeper as well, making sure he's switched on too.
Who are the toughest full forwards you've played against?
Well, you've obviously named a few so far. I think Joe Canning, Seamus Callan, of course, and Trudy Fitzgibbon, Aaron Gallan and Keane Lynch, the likes Declan Hannon has played in the forwards with the college. They're always difficult to mark. They all bring their own game. You probably find it a bit harder or a bit easier to mark the guys at the top, because you've got so much tape. But the likes of Mikey Boyle, Shane Conway from Kerry have always been tough tasks for me, and always dangerous on the edge of the square and there to get goals. So
you mentioned like guys that there's lots of tape on. So I presume in this instance, like your most sort of high-profile performance ever for Westmeath would have been against Seamus Callan in the 2017 championship when you held him scoreless from play. So when you're talking about having tape, you mean you're able to study beforehand how they're going to play? That's
exactly it. You just kind of get used to knowing guys that you see in the telly the whole time. Like everyone has a tape of a few All-Irelands at home, and look, tape's not going to help you every time, but if you do get bet for that first ball, you kind of have an inkling that where they might go, and you'll know it from marking guys at training. You always know they have a preferred side, and it's just to keep them tight on that side.
What's the difference between marking maybe the likes of Conor MacDonald, Seamus Callan or Joe Canning? Is there anything that sticks out about any of them that like this is their signature thing?
Well, I'll just mention it. It's getting caught in front. I think it was Joe Canning I got caught in front of, and you're always going to be in trouble then, because forwards will like at home we have Brendan Murphy from Clunkill, and he's probably the best man at going up from behind and tipping the hurl out of the way, getting his hand to it, and it's not a foul either. Everyone does it. I try and play from behind due to my height and kind of reach over, and it works that way. But every forward will have his tendencies and have his strengths, and you just have to try to exploit his weaknesses.
So who's the top full forward right now?
We'll see it the weekend. I suppose. But there's loads. There's always. I find I've had as many tough games in 2A, and it's such a difficult division to get out of. And Andy O'Brien from Wicklow, I think he terrorised me for 10 minutes in getting 2 goals in Cusack Park, stuff like that. You just have to adapt and try to get back in the game. But there's plenty of these forwards all over the place, and I've mentioned the likes of Shane Conway, Neil McManus from Antrim, and Mikey Boyle from Kerry. They're always tough to mark.
And then just one final point about playing fullback. How crucial is the communication with your goalkeeper?
That's a big one. If anyone leaving outside the 21, you're always shouting, that's your space there now. So I think it happened the weekend once the long ball came in, pretend going for the ball and just let it run. And once they're sharp on the line, we get the ball, a handy ball that's not 50-50 with the full forward.
Okay, brilliant stuff. Thank you very much, Tommy Doyle. That's it for the Hurling Show this week. We're back again next Thursday at 3 p.m. The Gaelic Football Show will be next Wednesday at 12:30 as always. And don't forget to tune in to Off the Ball later, the evening show. There's going to be plenty more hurling then.